Okay, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Could I please request for all those present in the auditorium to stand as we wait for the arrival of the VIPs? Yeah, and remain standing for the Negaraku. So they're on their way. If you can, yeah, if you can start standing. Okay, I hereby announce the arrival of Prof. IA Dr. Shaliza Ibrahim, University Malaya's Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Research and Innovation, accompanied by our Dean, Professor Dr. April Camelia Roslani, Professor Dr. Sanjay Rampal, Deputy Dean of Research, Professor Dr. Rufina Yasmin, our plenary speaker, and Dr. Jasmine Lim, the chairperson for the organizing committee. We shall start this event with the national anthem, followed by our University Malaya song.
Varsity Kesayanganku,
okay, may I invite you to take your seat? Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Salam sejahtera and a warm welcome to the distinguished guests, academicians, doctors, researchers, and colleagues to this special event hosted by the Faculty of Medicine, University Malaya. I'm Associate Professor Dr. Azlina, and I am your MC for today. And I stand here on behalf of the organizing committee to welcome you to this Research Carnival 2020. Without further ado, I would like to invite the Dean, Prof. April, to the stage to welcome everyone to this year's Carnival. Welcome, Prof. April.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang Berusaha, Professor Engineer Dr. Shaliza Ibrahim, Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation at University Malaya. Yang Berusaha, Professor Dr. Rufina Yasmin Othman, Honorary Professor, Institute for Advanced Studies, University Malaya. Faculty of Medicine Management, Heads of Departments, distinguished guests and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the Faculty of Medicine's contribution to University Malaya's Research Carnival 2022. This annual Research Carnival has become a significant platform for academics from Faculty of Medicine and the larger community to highlight the high standards of research in University Malaya. And I would like to thank Prof. Shaliza and Prof. Rufina for gracing us with your presence. Research can be defined as a systematic investigation in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. This year's Carnival theme, celebrating innovation, industry, and community engagement, aims to emphasize how UM's research drives innovation and impacts the global community and industry. The Faculty of Medicine at University Malaya has a dynamic research environment with access to fully equipped facilities and diverse clinical and non-clinical research expertise. We are well placed to nurture interdisciplinary innovations utilizing basic science, clinical, and translational approaches. This is in line with the university's vision to be an internationally renowned institution of higher learning in research and innovation. I am proud to say that members of the Faculty of Medicine have and will continue to embark on impactful research programs through collaboration with national and international funding agencies, industry partners, as well as the wider community. In 2021 alone, our faculty has published 857 ISI papers, with 53% of them being in Q1 and Q2 journals. The total amount of research grants received by the faculty was 23.5 million ringgit, of which more than half was from national, private, and international bodies. Our researchers have also been actively building networks with 40 new Memoranda of Understanding or Memoranda of Agreement initiated in 2021. As we move forward, we aim to increase the diffusion of our health-related research to impact health-related industries, governments and non-governmental organizations, academia, and the public. Thus, this carnival convenes and connects innovators from different disciplines, local and international industry players, as well as community to help advance healthcare innovation for the decades to come. The expansive range of activities, curating expertise from many eminent speakers would not have been possible without the tireless efforts of the organizing committee, led by Professor Sanjay Rampal, our Deputy Dean for Research. The commitment and enthusiasm they have shown over the past few months in orchestrating this event has been wonderful. Congratulations and well done on engaging the research community from within and without the faculty. I am sure that this carnival will bear fruit thanks to these efforts. So with that, I wish all of you a stimulating and productive time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Prof. April. It is now with great pleasure that I would like to invite Professor Dr. Shaliza Ibrahim, University Malaya Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Research and Innovation, to give her opening speech to officiate the faculty's Research Carnival. Prof.
Thank you, Dr. Azlina. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Professor Dr. April Kamila Ruslani, Dean, Faculty of Medicine, and Honorary Professor Dr. Rufina Yasmin Othman, who's going to be a plenary speaker, Professor Dr. Sanjay Rampal, Deputy Dean for Research, Faculty of Medicine, Mr. Kevin Cristiano from Hologram, Indonesia, Associate Professor Dr. Nur Amani Ahmad Tajuddin, who is representing the Faculty Community Initiative, Dr. Jasmine Lim, Chairperson of the Organizing Committee, generous sponsors of the event and industry partners who are here today, respected colleagues and students. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon. I feel privileged to be able to spend this afternoon with you on the occasion of the Faculty of Medicine Research Carnival in supporting your endeavors to push the boundaries of knowledge and ensuring a vibrant research environment to spark ideas for innovation. Researchers are strongly encouraged to look for opportunities across all sectors and forge multidisciplinary partnerships in building their research teams to look at problems in a holistic way. I'm sure we all agree that it is more interesting to venture out of our comfort zones, to get to know our counterparts from the different fields and put our heads and hearts together in solving common issues that will eventually benefit those around us, the society, the economy, and the environment. We have all heard of the quadruple and quintuple innovation helix framework, which describes the overlapping interactions of each sector, namely university, industry, government, the public, and the environment within a knowledge economy. But how do we foster this? How do we ensure that a researcher embodies this approach? Is there a formula that we could prescribe to researchers to enhance the value and impact of their research? Perhaps it is apt then for the Faculty of Medicine to propose a possible prescriptive formula, which is reflected in your Research Carnival logo this year. 4 simple yet essential pieces of a puzzle to this formula, which researchers can adopt in any research study. The first piece is to engage with your academic peers, who will provide that important balance of collaboration and critical review. And as Prof. April has said, with over 800 papers in 2021 and over 500 thus far this year, it is clear that the Faculty of Medicine is doing very well in this area. Congratulations. You can yet challenge yourself further by involving colleagues from vastly different disciplines in your research. being a broad-based university, you will have no short of choices in finding a research partner from other fields. The second piece, which I know is already widely practiced by colleagues at the Faculty of Medicine, is to involve the community as essential partners in your research objectives. And research projects must be structured to best benefit them. Lessons learned from pioneering community-based initiatives like the program ROSE can help to nurture other possible community outreach programs. This is also possible through support from UMCAS, which actively encourages researchers to allow their research findings to mature into actionable community intervention initiatives. The third piece to the puzzle is to seek opportunities with industry, as they are critical stakeholders who can, among other things, fund your research to help focus your research questions to current demands. Some of your relevant industry partners are here this week, so use this opportunity to start a conversation and begin to build those bridges. It is imperative that engagement with industry start before you draft your research proposal so that the research outcome will be of immediate benefit to the industry. In 2021, the Faculty of Medicine received a substantial amount of research funding, mostly from national, private, and international bodies, excluding in clinical investigation grants. And Faculty of Medicine is also among the top recipient of international grants in the University of Malaya. Congratulations. And I understand 40 new MOUs and MOAs are being initiated this year as well. Well done on these achievements, and we look forward to the faculty having productive collaborations with your new partners, as well as continuing with ongoing partnerships. And we hope you will continue to highlight the faculty's research to attract even more partners, both from within Malaysia and outside. The fourth piece on the logo, innovation, allows one to think creatively and push ourselves beyond our boundaries and to imagine different ways of doing things. I'm delighted to hear that one of the topics covered in this carnival is the application of metaverse in education, medicine, and healthcare, with invited colleagues from the Faculty of Computer Science and Information Technology, as well as Microsoft. Our future, incorporating elements of metaverse, looks exciting, and perhaps in the future we will meet as avatars in a virtual immersive research carnival. And if you have developed solutions that can be offered to others outside academia, we also encourage you to explore the potential of commercializing your innovations. For this, you can start by having a business pod under Innovation, which is managed by the University Malaya Center for Innovation and Enterprise, UMCIE. Finally, I would like to congratulate and thank the organizing committee for successfully making the Faculty of Medicine Research Carnival happen. And I agree that integrating the various sectors and fields of study is key to a sustainable future. With this, I would like to officially declare the opening of the Faculty of Medicine Research Carnival 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so now it's time for us to have our opening ceremony gimmick. And as you are all aware, our logo this year is a 4-piece puzzle, and we'd like to invite some of our esteemed VIPs to represent the 4 stakeholders in this 4-piece puzzle. So first of all, I would like to invite Prof. April, who will be representing the academic stakeholder. If you would like to move to the gong, Prof. And to hit the gong as the academic stakeholder. Thank you, Prof. Next, we would like to invite Professor Dr. Nur Amani, who is representing the faculty's community initiatives. Thank you, Dr. Amani. And next, we would like to invite Mr. Kevin Cristanto, representing industry. Thank you, Dr. Cristanto. And finally, of course, the final piece will be placed by Prof. Shaliza, who is representing the innovation stakeholder. Thank you, Prof. Shaliza. May I request the 4 stakeholders to come on stage for a photo opportunity? Yes. Prof. Freestyle. Thank you so much. And if I can just ask Prof. Shaliza and also Prof. April to remain standing. We would now like to invite the Dean to give a token of appreciation to Prof. Shaliza. Thank you, Prof. May I ask you to return to your seats? Thank you. Okay, so now we will play the montage for the carnival. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we would like to move on to the plenary speech by Professor Dr. Rufina Yasmin. Let me take a few moments to introduce Prof. Yasmin. Professor Dr. Rufina Yasmin is an honorary professor at ISUM, an ASM and ICDM fellow, adjunct professor at IUMW and UCSI, and until recently, CEO of Capital, a UMH subsidiary supporting the value chain of commercialization of R&D, including its startups. Prior to retiring from she was Associate Vice Chancellor of the Industry and Community. She continues to be active in biotech research at CIBA She has been on the board of and several companies, Magic and NIBM, and now of venture firms Zaraya and MIFL. She is also the founding vice president of the Innovation Technology Managers Association Malaysia, and most recently, the founder of Leaf Edge Technologies, an innovation platform focusing on plant science. Apart from her academic and professional achievements, I would also like to say that many of us have been personally touched by Prof. Yasmin's infectious enthusiasm and her kind, supportive spirit for young scientists and entrepreneurs. And it truly is an honor to have her here with us today. So it is now with great pleasure that I would like to invite Prof. Rufina Yasmin to the podium to give her plenary speech.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and a very good afternoon. It's really my pleasure to be here, and I'd like to firstly thank Prof. April, Faculty of Medicine, Dr. Jasmine, Dr. Zlina, Prof. Sanjay. Of course, I'm so happy always to be on the same stage as Prof. Shaliza. She's quite an icon to me for University Malaya. And University Malaya Faculty of Medicine is very close to my heart. I spent many years here, actually, for those of you old enough to remember. I did my master's here in the Department of Medical Microbiology, together with Prof. Lam Saikit as my supervisor. So I'm kind of a little bit part of you guys as an alumni. And many happy moments, and always very cognizant of the fact that the work done at the Faculty of Medicine has always been about impact. It's always been about impact. And, and it always starts with an end in mind, which is the well-being of patients or the well-being of the community. On that note, it was hard to think of what I could teach you about impact, really, except that I wanted to put a bit of perspective about how younger researchers should view impact. It's not as a burden, but really as something that can arise at any point in your research journey, and that it's something that is almost like a bonus to how we see what we do. Because a lot of times people imagine that impact is something that you have to be the goal of your research. As researchers, sometimes that's not how we do it. And I think a little bit of perspective on this is maybe something we could share together. So the title's a bit too big for the time that I have. If you let me talk about this, I'll need like 2 days, because this is really a little bit of my passion, trying to look at how researchers innovate and how entrepreneurship is one of the ways that we can achieve impact in what we do. And is it possible for us to design our research that it has impact, or is it necessary for us to design it in such a way? So very quickly, so as in any kind of term in this space, there's 101 definitions, and it depends on which paper you pick up. But this is one I thought that will resonate with researchers, really. When you talk about impact, it's any effect, change, or benefit, and to almost anything around you, to your whole sphere, and even to the metaverse. I don't know whether I'm a fan of the metaverse, to be honest, but to everything really, whether it's economy, society, culture, public policy, services, health, so on and so forth. And the key word here is for impact beyond academia. And that's how we should look at what what the general public understands by the impact they expect from us, which is very different from what sometimes we as academics feel. Of course, we're all driven now by KPIs, and even the conversation when I arrived was really about performance, and of course that's important, and I'll explain a little bit why it has to be understood from both perspectives. And anyway, anything impact in academia always begins with research excellence, and that's something I don't have to elaborate for the Faculty of Medicine. Wow, I didn't know those figures. Those are really impressive figures. I think you should be proud that the Faculty of Medicine really, really carries the weight of our brand as a research university of international standing. So you should really be proud of that. And it is a great starting point in terms of talking about impact. But we shouldn't be too complacent. We did very well, and this is a statistics about complacency, about feeling good. Sometimes it's good to feel good, but sometimes it's also good to have some reality check. And this was from a set of slides by Professor Asma, who's the president of the Academy of Sciences. And I only picked up one reality check 6. She had like 10 reality checks. So in other words, we, especially as academics, we have to be mindful that that we can always do better. So, you can have this later. You can look at that. The top shows a lot of the statistics above water that we're very proud of, our ranking in terms of competitiveness, market access, innovation. We score quite highly in the world. However, beneath the ocean, there are a lot of things which still needs to be improved, and that's where I think as academia, as people who are in the space of improving the quality of life for our citizens and our Earth in general, then we should be cognizant of the fact that there's always room for improvement, or all is not what it seems sometimes. So, I'm not going to dwell on this graph, but it's interesting reading, and you can look at this in the reports by the Academy, like the Science Outlook 2020 report, or the STIE report, or the 10 by 10 report. Tells you what it is as is, and and that to me will help us in our journey to be more impactful. So we cannot predict impact. You can't say, I want to save the world. I want to, you can have targets, of course, but impact is something that is derived after you've completed a phase or a part of your work, but we certainly can plan for it. We should plan for it. And it should not be something that happens at the end of a journey. So whatever journey or research or a path you wish to take in your career, you have to be able to recognize that at any stage in your work, the opportunity for impact is always there. And you have to look at impact as academics in two parts. Academic impact, which sometimes we're a little bit obsessed about. And really in the last half of my career, in the last 15 years, we seem to be very, very focused on academic impact. So these are your publications, but also very important things like the quality of the talent that you produce. So you can see that it's not very clear here: improving teaching and learning, your academic collaborations, your publications, the citations that you get. These are really important as an academic. It is the starting point of how you make impact. And while we don't like to put it into numbers and have it hanging over our head, the reality is that these are the general targets that any academic wants. Maybe we should not be obsessed by the numbers so much as just strive to do the best you can in each of these areas, because that's what you chose to be anyway. You chose to be academics, and this is what academics do, right? They create talent, they produce knowledge, papers, they let other people read it. If you have a lot of knowledge but nobody reads it, you're not going to get any impact anyway. What the public expects, though, is something vastly different. They don't really recognize academic impact as such. Okay, impact for the public is what impacts them and their lives. So a paper, how your curriculum has developed, that's not really what they imagine to expect. So here we encourage researchers to look at what is the impact that the public expects really from knowledge generation. So anything from increase in all those factors that I listed out in the definition of impact are really those that the public expect to benefit when they hear about what you are doing. And to start with, how we want to be able to meet these expectations is to have a look really at your own choice of research or your own track of knowledge generation, and really just have a look at what kind of gaps you're addressing, whether it is directly or indirectly, or whether you're in the space of filling that gap. You need to always, at the beginning of any work that you start, have at least a good idea of where you are heading in terms of finding a solution to a problem. And people talk about this all the time, that universities should be solution providers. I don't entirely agree with this, but I do agree that the knowledge that we generate should be part of the process of solving problems for the world in general, because all knowledge has that criteria. So to enable us to be able to really put our work in perspective, whatever measure that you take or whatever gap that you identify, we should, as scientists, be able to have a kind of a framework that whatever impact that we hope to be a part of has evidence, is measurable, and has something that will change and something that will benefit whoever the stakeholder is in the end. So, and it's a spectrum. So these are all very general terms, really, about impact that while it seems a little bit sort of textbook or technical language, it's the reality of whatever we do, that if we don't think about this at the beginning, and we just choose to have an academic output as the main aim of your work, then you're going to lose out on a lot of opportunities of creating impact. And so how do you decide what impact? I think both Prof. April and Prof. Shaliza mentioned this, that the most important aspect of looking at impact is understanding who your stakeholders are, the quadruple helix. Now quintuple helix, people add the environment as a stakeholder, as the fifth stakeholder. And there's even a sixth stakeholder sometimes that people talk about. But generally, it doesn't matter. You can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 stakeholders. You have to ask yourself, okay, I love to read research grants where everybody's trying to save the world, because we always have the column, right? Who's your beneficiary? And then you write, oh, so. And then when I do wonder, have you communicated with anybody in this space? Is it just through reading something that you decide that he or she is a stakeholder? So have you communicated at all? So communication, when I work with entrepreneurs and I work with spin-off companies or people who want to do commercialization, unfortunately, a lot of times researchers especially make assumptions about what they think people want, what they think is the value of their work, and what they think is good for you, good for the stakeholder. Yeah, and there's often lack of communication or attempt to communicate with stakeholders, and you cannot downplay the importance of it. So I'm really happy that FYM has decided that to make very integral. I saw a lot of your talks in this series were with industry players, and that is very exciting. It's very necessary. It doesn't mean all of you now should jump on the bandwagon and become entrepreneurs or work with industry or collaborators. That's not the point. The point is you can see a point of view which is different from yours, expectation of impact which is different from yours, and is as important as yours, So somewhere we want to meet halfway, find the middle ground, or at least you can see whatever you're doing is heading towards the expectation of impact that your stakeholders want. So it goes on. So the two sort of big topics of this small talk that I'm giving, so I'm only speaking for 15 to 20 minutes, don't worry. But, it's impact through innovation. So innovation is another one of those big words. You can pick up 10 books and every book will have a different definition, and everybody will say, oh, this is the definition that's the best. But I found one that was a little bit different, in fact, where, the quadrant is not quite the usual quadrant of innovations. So this is the four. Generally, there are 4 types of innovation that most books will talk about. Some talk about 8, some talk about 16, 10, all these magic numbers. But this 4 I thought was relevant to what we do as researchers, that we could understand when we talk about innovation, because impact through innovation is one of the most obvious ways that research moves forward. So from research, which generates knowledge, to innovation, which generates change with value. So the simple definition, I think that's all encompassing, is that any change in anything that you do that brings value is innovation. Even behavior, you can have innovation in behavior. You can have innovation in physical things, in processes. You can have innovation in all sorts of things, ideas. As long as it brings a change, and it brings a change that brings value, then that's what we call innovation. So it's quite simple. But there are classes of innovation, breakthrough innovations, and these are the really mavericks, skunk works. I don't know whether you all know the term skunk works. It came from the airline industry, where they find people with crazy ideas, throw them into a room together, and they're called skunks, and they just come up with wildest idea that men could travel beyond the speed of light. That came from a skunk work group, and things like that. So maybe you need a skunk work group in the Faculty of Medicine, to really be a maverick, no rules in solving a problem. And it works for a lot of industries, especially in electronics, in the IT industry. the metaverse, the hologram. I don't think you have somebody from hologram here. Who would imagine there could be such a thing, right? And Mavericks did. And then sustaining innovation, so you can see whether it's well-defined or not so well-defined. And sustaining innovation is one thing that, of course, is clearer to all of us. Things like R&D labs, design thinking, acquisitions, things that are tangible and will create the value that is expected. Then we have basic research is there. So most people at the bottom here will put something else. But basic research is where we are, really, most of us are. And it's not that it's not innovation. It's just that in terms of impact to the general stakeholder, that maybe it's less defined, and really maybe even the problem is less defined. Although you say you want to develop a drug, but then people will say when, how, or how much, and all those questions cannot be answered by a small research program. So, it's less well defined in terms of where is the end. So for researchers, there's this innovation impact point. Tomorrow you're going to have, 3-4 hours of wonderful sharing. I saw you have a whole session on innovation, which will tell you about how you can choose your pathway for impact. I just put up this graph because it just shows you that really, to be honest, nobody expects everybody to patent. Nobody expects everybody to do commercialization, despite the fact that some people believe that it should be everybody's KPI. Or no, because if you look at the statistics, this is like a very ballpark statistics of what happens to research as it goes down the innovation value chain. So most of us will create the impact through our publications, reports, and these are academic impacts. It's really important, how our students learn, how our curriculum is developed, and this is really our primary job. And 70% of our R&D output should support this. So we generate knowledge through publications that other people will read and cite and create more knowledge, and it goes on. And then 15% will have some value, the fact that it's novel, that you can patent it. And then it goes on to another 10% then may be transferred, to be developed into new products or processes. And that's where entrepreneurship comes in. This is where the entrepreneur comes in. We don't expect more than 10% of our R&D output to be in this space, really. Because if you expect more, you're in for a great disappointment, because that's not why the research was done. And only 5% in the kind of a world average. Actually, the world average is something like 2.5% of research will end up commercialized in the conventional way, that is, make money. Okay, the rest are getting impact in many different ways. So, this is really the kind of statistics we in the Technology Transfer Association, we try and really get policymakers to understand that really it is value in a chain, and it's different. So how have we done in here? I guess somebody's familiar here. Anyway, this is some familiar faces of some recent entrepreneurs in the university, some from your faculty as well, I'm sure you can see. And as a result of the work, they're able to reach at least the 10% whom are able to move into a sphere which is beyond academia. Okay, and really, this is no mean feat. And it's not because when you talk to them, it's not because when they started the research, this is what they wanted to be. It's that the opportunity arose, and there is an ecosystem that was able to support them. And I think you guys are really in a very exciting space. And I'll show you in my last few slides how the ecosystem in Malaysia really right now, despite the fact that everything's going to be put on hold for the next 3 to 4 weeks, it's really the most exciting time for entrepreneurs and individuals or groups that are interested in this space, really, this startup space. There's a big revival. The budget set 1.3 billion for venture funding for entrepreneurs, phenomenal. Today, while we speak, Bank Rakyat is launching a Unipreneur fund. And this is, I don't know who's there, I think Dr. Iskandar is there. And this is Bank Rakyat going to fund specifically university students to do their startups in tech spaces. So an amazing new fund being kicked off by Bank Rakyat, even as we speak. And we have innovators like Prof. Naziati, a crossover. So this is, again, something I wanted to highlight that Prof. Shaliza highlighted. Cross-disciplinary work. She does accessibility design, and she has a spun off a social innovation company, a social enterprise called Zasvi, which looks at universal design for all able and disabled, as well as post-operative clients that require modification to their homes or their living spaces or their social spaces. So there's so many ways that you can look at what is the opportunity for entrepreneurship. And the impact that these ladies did was not just in terms of their business or in terms of moving their research to the next phase. And this was from a paper I presented earlier in the year in an International Women's Day or something like that. But, I was really, really happy to note that in itself, we are pushing the boundaries for women, in science. And this is the statistics of our entrepreneur program in When we first started the entrepreneur program in 2006, 2007, no women founders were in the mix, or for some reason or other, despite the fact that more than 60% of our staff are women, academic staff are women. And that grew to 30% during the Technopreneur program, grew to 40% during our accelerator program. And in our current program, the UM Deep Tech Accelerator, you'll hear about it tomorrow, 60% of the founders are women in technology. So that's pretty impressive. And, it really highlights really how University of Malaya is really a leader in equal opportunity in gender equality and opportunities. So this statistics really blew my mind. So just to finish off, so as I was saying, many routes to impact from research. And for those of you who are so inclined and looking at entrepreneurship as an opportunity, and there is always opportunity, this is really the best time to have a look at what you're doing and to see whether there's any route or room for any part of your work, any part. And I say part because in a research program, it's not necessarily that you patent or move the whole research project out into a certain direction, a certain space. It's really, a matter of opportunity, as I said before, looking at students as conduits of moving your technology out into the mainstream commercial space, or using partners from outside. And this is a website called Durianscape, and it just outlines, all the players in the space that you might need to know, whether it's funders, collaborators, co-working spaces, or people who do education and entrepreneurship. They're all there. We do have a very solid ecosystem, and we're rated very highly in terms of facilitative environment for startups in the region. And policies, no short of policies either. And I really would like more researchers to read policies. You might think it's boring, but actually it really gives a perspective to the country. A lot of work has been put into these policies to look at what the country really needs. The problem is people don't read it after it's done, and then people don't implement it the way it should be implemented. But, us as academics, it's up to us to also frame our own work based on policies. We expect government to actually run these policies or to address these problems of society. But these problems are our problems as well. And academia, to me, are more well-placed. Maybe we should have, sessions where we go through policies at our faculties and identify niches based on all this work that has been done by the academy or by, you pay Boston Consulting $5-10 million to do a policy which nobody reads. But they've done a phenomenal job, of identifying the problems. So why don't, when I talk to most researchers, how many of you read any policy document in the last 3 years? Honestly. Professor Liza, I'm sure you've read some. Well, she writes them. So, But I'm sure some of you are involved in also writing them. But I don't think people actually read them. I always wonder who reads the documents. And I especially wonder when I'm doing innovation management, entrepreneurship, when I say, okay, which pillar of RMK12 are you? Nobody even knows what's in RMK12 document, let alone the roadmaps, the vaccine roadmaps, now the biotech roadmap. We launched that just 3 weeks ago. The Science Outlook 2020, we spent 6 months doing that at the academy, and it outlines all the problems that faces our urban society today. But hardly anybody has picked it up to call me to say, hey, what's this all about, Prof. Yasmin? How can we solve this problem? It's just very strange. So I don't know, Prof. Shaliza, maybe it's something we should think about. We tell people, academics is one of their outputs, must be involved with evidence-based policy making. But what about evidence-based policy implementation, through our research programs? And, take one policy to the end and solve the problem, Otherwise, the policies keep repeating itself. But anyway, the left here is the progress of the science, technology, and innovation document, the policy document that academy comes up with every year. Then we have, even for entrepreneurship, you have this action plan. And then Meranti. Okay, who knows what Meranti is in this room? Some? That was one. She knows what Meranti is. Meranti is a tree. Okay, Meranti is not just a tree. Meranti is, of course, the new name for the amalgamation of Magic and Technology Park Malaysia. So what's that? Okay, these are big players in our startup landscape. And their focus, believe it or not, is to take university research out to market. That is their principle. And yet, when I ask maybe 9 out of 10 researchers don't know who they are. And yet that is the reason they have been created. That's why their budget is, even just for this year, is like 17 million, 200 million. So a lot of money they have to help us commercialize our research, and yet we don't know much about them. So it's a little bit of the big gap that we saw. It is a communication gap. We are not doing stakeholder communication in the best possible way. They are not doing stakeholder communication. We are their stakeholders in the best possible way as well. And somehow or other, we must bridge this gap. So for instance, Meranti 2 weeks ago launched the Health Hub. Have you heard of this, Prof? The National Health Hub is part of their sandbox program. They have a national sandbox program. So what is a sandbox really? So if you want to commercialize something and there's no rules or laws in the country yet, you may enter a sandbox and you may be allowed to carry out experiments or research developmental work to allow you to bring the technology to the next stage, like what they're doing with EV, because we don't have laws for EV on the road, proper laws. For instance, that's what they're doing with drones. And they launched the Health Hub for the same reason. And they have curated 5 government hospitals that have agreed to do clinical testing for new products within the health sphere. But I'm not sure how much they consulted, like PPUM or UMMC or Faculty of Medicine. But it's interesting anyway, because it was created from the perspective of the entrepreneur, not really from the perspective of the health provider. So this is where I also feel there's still a big disconnect, because I work in both spheres as an academic and also as a innovation manager. And when I talk to the people in the innovation management space, they're just like us. We assume what they want and need, and they assume what we want and need. And to be honest, standing in between, it's not the same. Both sides have got it usually a little bit off track. So I think communication is important. And it's a shame, because such an initiative like the Health Hub in Magic is going to be funded. It's going to be supported by government, by EPU, by MOF, and we can't take advantage of it if we don't know what it is, or if we don't guide it to be what it should be. Okay, so just some thoughts about being proactive about your environment and what is there supposedly to help us, move the needle, so to speak, from being low impact to high impact. And finally, I think I have one or two more slides. This is something that, again, I stole from Prof. Asma's sets of slides, and this is a quote from her, that there is a guidance, actually, for researchers to do their work in terms of achieving an impact that the country sort of desires. And the framework that was created by the Academy is called the 10 by 10 STIE framework. It's a mouthful. But if you go to any event hosted by any of the ministries, they're going to quote this 10 by 10, 10 by 10, and then it's your work 10 by 10 within the 10 by 10 framework. If it's not, you may not get funded, to be honest, because this is now the strategic thrust of how research is going to be funded in the next few years, at least till 2025. And it's moving towards impact-driven research. So all the words are there. Prof. Asma, of course, is both an academic as well as innovation manager. And she understands that, there has to be some congruency between the two. And they created something which supposedly is very easy for everybody to understand, that whatever you do in research or in technology development has to have a link with socioeconomic drivers or needs of the country. And that's the basis of this 10 by 10 matrix. And everybody in our space should know about this, actually, because it does matter in terms of when you want to frame your research to convince people that you are going to have an impact on Malaysia or Malaysia's economy or its development. Then this is what it is, So the drivers are like energy, financial services, culture, arts and tourism, medical and healthcare is all is there. But the technology and science drivers are here on the left side. Sensors, 4D printing, advanced materials. Really scared me. Then I was looking where, and right at the bottom, bioscience technology. Okay, phew, I'm still relevant somewhere along the line. But I did this as an exercise with my group for banana, which is my principal crop for research, And you could do it. You could see where 5G or 3G might be important in banana research. For us, it was being able to communicate with our farmers who are all over the country. And then, sensor technology, of course, to detect new bugs or new, so you could create this also at the beginning of research as a kind of a exercise, to think about how your work is relevant to creating impact in Malaysia. And last of all, of course, we know, everybody knows the SDG. That has been a very successful exercise in branding, actually, the 17 SDGs, right? I think almost all of you probably could name me the 17 SDGs. Because it's been well branded, and in a way that has helped a lot in helping people to look at whether or not. But it's not the only matrix, to be honest. And we should look at local matrices and local policies to see what is really needed in our country in no small way. For instance, also that in IAS, where I'm attached now, we have launched the Planetary Health Initiative, which is actually a national initiative that was launched as the KL Declaration, apparently, by at the APRU meeting, the Asia Pacific Research University meeting, where there was a consortium to create national programs in planetary health. So planetary health is a more holistic way of looking at the health of not just people, but also the planet. And then all the other policies, as I said. So, like I said, I could go on forever. I'm sorry it's a little bit general, but I thought that what was important for me to convey was that everybody needs to be part of the big picture, You are not unimportant. You are actually so important to the big picture, because it's only when researchers understand, what is the end game for our country or planet, if you choose to be much bigger, then, you can a little bit be guided at how you're going to achieve an impact. And innovation and entrepreneurship, two very interesting domains that in Malaysia, there's a lot of opportunity. So attend tomorrow's innovation session, because, that's great. Dr. Ivy and Dr. Lee and are all there to help you along your way. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Prof. Yasmin. I think I can speak for all of us that we could have easily listened to you for another 2 hours, giving us such important insight. And I'd also like to thank you, Prof, for reminding us that in our pursuit for academic excellence, that we should always constantly remind ourselves about why we're doing the research that we're doing, and as well as thinking about the stakeholders' point of view. And also to thank you for widening the definition of innovation as something that brings value, an approach, not necessarily a product, but an approach that brings value to the community so that more people can feel more confident that they can embrace it. And also, thank you for next year's logo. I think it's going to be a 10 by 10 piece jigsaw puzzle. So good luck to the next organizing committee for 2023. Also, thank you so much for reminding us that we should constantly read. In fact, this afternoon, the Rebong team who are working on writing a policy paper for breast cancer screening in another room. But I hope that all of us can take our take-home message is that these policy papers have been written for a purpose, and we should pick one up and read them. So thank you so much, Prof, for reminding us of all those important factors. So now I would like to invite Prof. April to give a token of appreciation to Prof. Yasmin. Okay, thank you, Prof. Prof. April and Prof. Yasmin. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this moment to thank everyone who has helped towards the organizing and sponsoring of the carnival on behalf of Professor Sanjay and Dr. Jasmine, who were the Deputy Dean of Research and also the chairperson who are in charge of this carnival. And we would like to generously thank the sponsors of the event. Could we just have the sponsor of the event? Sorry. Okay, never mind. So we have a number of sponsors for the event, and they have very generously donated, given us money and gifts in kind. And I really do invite all of you to have a look at the program book. And in the program book will be the list of all the sponsors and partners that have taken part in this research carnival. So with that, I would like to also remind you to go through the program book to view all the interesting talks and also the booths that are at the center point. Please go and visit them and start this conversation that Prof. Yasmin was talking about. So with that, thank you so much. And we would like to invite our special guests and also the heads of department to the sign-ups for afternoon tea. Thank you, everyone.